Welcome, everyone, to Unlocking My Potential podcast. This podcast is going to be a big focus into amazing women in the STEM technology, some background in the STEM world that we have. And today I'm here with the amazing Kara Baldwin. She will be, sharing a little bit of her journey, her background, and her super inspiring story with some experience in mechanical engineering, her past as a CNA, and even, her present and future as a teacher now. So super, super excited to have you here and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So first things first, let's start before we dive in with the whole career path. If you can share a little bit of your background, anything that you would like our listeners to know about you.
Sure. So I am originally from Raleigh, North Carolina. I lived there until I was 18, and then, I did the thing where I graduated high school, and all of my extended family was down in Florida. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And I moved to Florida, and I felt so lucky that I got to live where everyone vacationed. So I was like, I love this laying out in the sun. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time, making such a big move. So I just enrolled at like the local community college at Polk State College. I'd always really loved science and math, but I wasn't really sure what within that field I wanted to do. But I kind of felt more skewed towards, I would say, caretaking positions within STEM, like nursing and more of a medical field. So that's kind of how I started in that. Yeah, and then the rest is kind of history of how I transitioned from there.
Nice. So to begin with, you said that you started in nursing school. Do you want to share a little bit of, how did the whole spark and this transition happen between that to a STEM technology school and going to mechanical engineering, which is completely, completely different than nursing?
Yeah, for sure. Totally different. So again, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but at the time, I really felt like I didn't have much to lose in the way of kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, trying a couple different things, and I felt like I was young enough or early enough on in my educational career to work a few different jobs while I was in school, so I could really like kind of get both experiences of what the coursework would be like along with what like day-to-day activities would look like. So I started in a hospital. I was working mainly in the ER and the ICU. So
Okay.
it was like very, very high stress. I worked nights and weekends because that's when you made the
Oh,
most.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would work 3 12-hour shifts in a row, and then I would Monday morning get off of work and then go home, get ready for the day, and then go to my nursing classes. So after about a year of doing that, year and a half, it didn't take long. I started to get a little burnt out.
Oh, yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, of the stress. And for me, the reason why I did not like actual, patient-centered care was for me, it was hard not to take that stuff home. Um,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're working in a really stressful field, a really stressful hospital unit, and it literally is life and death at times.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and and that was hard. I wanted something that was just a little more relaxed, a little more predictable, a little more routine, something that I could really kind of relax into and yeah, get more work done that way rather than trying to um, run around and put out fires, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, of course.
So
No, I completely understand. My mom it was actually a nurse.
yeah.
And she had me when she was in college, so she was kind of trying to balance that out too, of like going to school, being a nurse, being a mom, and it was a lot. So huge props for the people that are actually able to do it, able to see all of those situations on a daily basis is literally what you said. Like there's a lot of lives in line, and you get to see so much that a lot of us cannot even imagine. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can only, assume how stressful that was, how hard it is for you to kind of give that balance of a break between, your life, your personal life, school even, and having the job where you go through it at all. So that's huge for you to, I actually wanted to pursue that for a little bit, but super understanding at the same time of moving away from it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think that again, I kind of felt like I just had nothing to lose at that point.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't super close with my family at the time. Had just moved like 700 miles from home, to a place where I had some family around, but I didn't really know like many people my age.
Yeah.
And so for me, at least, it worked out in those years because that was really a time where I was able to put just all of my focus into school and my job at the time to really, yeah, do that kind of inner work of figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like.
Mhm.
And trying to figure out, later on down the line, is this something that I could see myself doing for the next 10 years? When
Yeah.
life gets harder and life changes, is this something I'm still going to be interested in?
No, that's completely understandable.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did it go from, nursing school to making that decision of I'm gonna go to Florida Polytechnic, become, a mechanical engineer, and how did that whole path and little story happen there?
Yeah. So I actually have a couple of engineers in my family. My dad and my grandpa are both engineers. They are electrical engineers. And when I was growing up, they were never, it's funny because they were never super encouraging of like going into STEM. Um,
Oh, interesting.
I think that my dad especially never wanted to it be like his dad and almost impose engineering or
Okay.
anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things that I wasn't really interested much in until later on. Really, when I was working at the hospital, that was when I was opened up to working hands-on with medical devices.
Mhm.
And that was where, we were calibrating new equipment, we would set up new equipment. And I really enjoyed doing a lot of that work, kind of setting everything up to take the best care of the patient that we could, rather than
Yeah.
actually like being that person in front of the patients. Um, so really, it was working in the hospital that made me realize that. And so I had an advisor at Polk State that I went to go see, and it was really working with them. And also, admissions at Florida Poly was great before I started at school there. And they were awesome at looking through my transcripts of, the nursing classes that I had already completed, as well
Hmm.
as like the other, preliminary first kind of college courses. And they were really great at looking at what could transfer, and where I would end up, and kind of giving me a breakdown of what the next 4 years would look like from there. So,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for a Florida Poly scholarship, I probably would not have been able to go to college, at
Hmm.
least at the time or in the way that that looked like. Because I was just, working and paying out of pocket.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, once I had this realization that I was like, working in that technology field within medicine was possible,
Hmm.
then, being in Lakeland, and funny enough, having Florida Poly right there with their engineering program, really just kind of like consecutively led the line towards me entering there.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. I think that was the case for a lot of us, especially with the scholarship, because I remember it was the same thing for me. That was probably the it factor for me to go to Florida Poly.
Yes.
It was just all the opportunities and scholarships that they were providing, all of us being in the first couple of classes as soon as they opened. So which is an amazing opportunity. I think it made some of us very nervous at first without being accredited and where is this gonna go? But
Yeah.
now with how big the university is getting, with how much they're expanding and everything, I think it was an awesome decision that you took, that I took as well, and there's so many of us. But that's awesome how your path kind of just aligned from one thing to another in a way, in a very like natural way. Especially in Lakeland. It was a city that I knew nothing about, and
Yeah.
moving there and seeing, okay, it's a very small city.
Right.
Your
Yeah.
transition of like, okay, this kind of clicked, even like being in Lakeland and being in that like very, very small space.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
That is
it
amazing.
was so funny because I grew up in North Carolina, but my
Mhm.
extended family was down in Florida. And so
Yeah.
I would spend the summers down here, and that was really how I kind of grew up in Lakeland. And so I was always driving by I-4 when they were building Florida Poly.
Mhm.
And my cousins even were going to, one of my cousins has a diploma that says she graduated from USF Polytechnic when right
Oh,
before
nice.
Florida Poly kind of
Yeah.
split off on its own. So really, it was so funny because I just never thought that like at the time that was something that I was interested in. But yeah, like I had my grandpa especially was, living in Florida and he'd be like, "Oh, Kara, that'd be so cool for you to do. You should do it." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, grandpa, whatever you say." And then,
Mhm.
yeah, funny enough, 4 years later, I ended up there.
How did your dad and your grandpa especially felt once you mentioned that you're doing the transition from nursing to mechanical engineer, jumping schools and all of that?
They were very surprised. Obviously, making such a big career and education change, extremely surprised.
Yeah.
But I think that they were really encouraging, especially because I had worked for so long within that field. And
Hmm.
I had a few friends who were graduating ahead of me and had kind of ended up in a similar position where they graduated and worked hands-on in nursing, and sometimes within those fields, it just doesn't pan out to be what you think it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And it could be different things. It could be how you're supported at work. It could be work-life balance or other things like that. So once I explained like what I was really interested in, which was the technology and making care easier for patients,
Mhm.
they were really like gung ho and really encouraging and really were the rocks when I was in engineering school and like so stressed out and like failing all of the exams and everything like that and like calling them crying like I don't know what to do. They were really my rocks then that I counted on, that like I had been through this. I turned out to be fine. It
Yeah.
really, really, really was what helped me then.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad. I'm glad you get that. You had the support, especially on those moments in school.
Yes.
Some classes were, I don't even know how we passed some of the classes, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was insanity. All the nights without sleeping or working
Yeah.
with so many people on projects and trying to understand what in the world was happening.
That's like,
I think that's something that this very like underestimating like
yeah.
how hard the majors are, how hard
Yeah.
STEM is actually.
That
So
was what I was gonna say was like the epitome of my college experience is like just trying to figure out what is going on. Like,
yeah.
and it's like the more I tried to figure it out, the less I understood.
Literally,
So,
that is so, so true.
yes. Yeah. So,
Literally, everyone that I talk to is the same way. It's like how like 4 years went by so
yeah.
fast, and how did we make it? We don't know, but we made it. So
Exactly, exactly. And so yeah, without their support, I doubt that I would have made it through, yeah.
that's amazing. No, I'm glad. I'm glad you had the support, especially in those hard moments that it was in school for sure.
Yeah.
And then I know that during school you also did the SGA and like the Purple Fire Robotics. Do you want to talk a little bit more about those?
Yeah. So I kind of got into those clubs like how most people get into clubs, through
Mhm.
friends. So I
Yeah.
had some friends that were already in student government, and I had some friends that were interested in robotics. I had never done anything with robotics before joining the club, and I had never done anything with student government before
Mhm.
joining at Florida Poly. Um, but I was really like looking for clubs for more of the social aspect. And then if
Yeah.
I picked up any skills or anything, it was a double win. So I was introduced into student government my freshman year. Florida
Oh,
Poly was
nice.
so small, and one of my friends on student government said that they needed a couple more people for one of their
Hmm.
branches, and kind of sold it to me as something that would be fun to meet people and wouldn't be really stressful. And so I joined that, and that was really what put me in a lot of rooms where like decisions were being made. So decisions on like how money was spent, decisions on like what students got to go present different research topics at conferences and things like that, but also networking opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
That gave me a lot of opportunities to talk to people at Florida Poly who ended up giving me recommendations later on when I was applying for jobs, as well as networking with just other people within the Lakeland community as a part of SGA. That was a really cool opportunity there. And then robotics was a really cool opportunity because I was not only like learning all of the skills um, in the club, but I was also
Mhm.
in charge of outreach for working with other schools in the area, from elementary schools through high school age students.
Oh, nice.
So
That is awesome.
yeah, so again, it was really kind of focusing me on reaching out and networking with other people and setting up these other avenues to work with other universities and other companies outside of Florida Poly.
That's amazing. No, I love the little things you touch base when you started talking about the SGA and like the impact that the students had in the universities for being so small. I think that was something that I really loved. I really enjoyed. Um, I cannot see myself going to like a big university ever, having the experience that I did, where I felt like all of us had a voice in a way. And the university actually listened to us on, okay, how can we improve things for the students? Something that you mentioned, which actually changed my life, was like the money that the university gave us to go to those conferences, to be able to network, to be able to expend a little bit of like our resources as well, and put us out there into the world, into the opportunities of internships and even full-time positions. So that is awesome. I'm glad you touched base on that one. And then with robotics, I learned about the club very later on. And I remember there wasn't there like some competitions or things with like building your own robot. That was like
Yeah.
some really cool things you guys did as well.
Oh my God, yeah. So a couple different things. So we did Vex Robotics, where we had some different like mechanical competitions of different tasks that robots were supposed to compete. We got to go to different IEEE hardware conferences and conventions. One of which was at USF in St. Pete, that we really enjoyed while I was in college. And then we also did some combat robotics, like battle
Oh, that
bots,
is
like
amazing.
fighting style. And so when we would do outreach with other high schoolers or other elementary schools, whatever it was, um, we were really focusing either on mentoring for their robotics programs for their competitions, or doing more of like a demo kind of like skills class or skills camp, for them to
That
be
is
able
so
to
cool.
like build their own, which was really, really, really cool to um, be learning the skills myself, but then, be teaching a little bit to those that are also super, super interested and excited about robotics, which was really cool.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I remember I saw, I think it was on probably the university's website. Like some of the robots you guys created and like the competition pictures and everything was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And like it was a ton of work. Now I cannot take credit for the teams that won anything or did anything. None of that was due to me. None of that was due to my effort. I wish I could take credit for it. Um, I was kind of like I would say like PR person or like a project
Hmm.
manager, like a teacher, kind of aspect within
Yeah.
robotics. But like I was in it with Eric Chan and a
Yep.
couple others that like were just incredible engineers and they were in the labs all night working on stuff. It was really, really
Oh
cool to
yeah.
see from
I
start to
think a lot
finish.
of the pictures, yeah, I think a lot of the pictures were the lab
Yes,
pictures
yeah,
of them like building up things,
yeah,
which is awesome. But hey, we need the project managers, the PR, the teachers. Without us, things will not move along very organized
right,
and get it all done. So very, very important role that you play there.
right.
I think for every club and everything I did at Florida Poly was the same thing. I'm like the manager, making sure things are good, but the very, very some people are just like geniuses and they
Yeah,
could build these crazy things that I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know how you guys do it, but that is amazing.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's intimidating when you start too.
yeah.
And I don't know if you felt similarly, but when I started, I like wasn't super experienced with engineering or anything STEM. So then you have, these other freshmen that are coming in that have been doing CAD since they were in middle school, and you're kind of like, oh my God, how am I supposed to catch up? And yeah, it was really intimidating.
Oh yeah, 100%. I felt exactly the same way. It was a big shock to me. And for like a little bit I also felt like I didn't belong in a sense of,
Totally.
you're sitting down in class with these really, really smart people
Yeah.
since day one, and then we're having all these really hard classes, and you just have those people that are answering all the questions and just getting everything and
Yeah.
utilizing all the knowledge to create different products, create different things, and then you're just there like, I don't even know what just happened in this
Yes.
class. So
Yes.
how are you guys using this and actually implementing all this knowledge when I have no clue what just happened?
Yeah.
Um,
And it's and
yeah,
and
that's a big emotion.
yeah, and some people do it so effortlessly. Like that's what
Hmm.
got me is I would kind of I had the imposter syndrome like what you're talking
Yep.
about. And anytime I would like fail an exam or something, that would kind of be like the confirmation I need to think like, I can't handle this or and yeah, it was really leaning on my support systems, like my family, but also
Hmm.
I had a professor that I would go see all the time, Dr. Susan LaFrancois, and I would
Yeah.
talk to her all the time. And genuinely, if it were not for them, just letting me vent and then like reassuring me that everything was going to be fine, that yeah, probably would not have made it getting my degree and graduating. So,
Oh yeah, 100%. The staff and the teachers were so good.
yeah, yeah,
Because I think, yeah, I had a couple of evenings venting out to professors too, saying like, okay, at this point, should I just withdraw from your class? And they're
yeah,
like, it's been 2 weeks.
yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, but I just don't get it.
yeah,
Like, I don't even know what to do at this point.
right.
But yeah, it was exactly what you said, like that imposter syndrome feeling of when you're studying for a test or a quiz or just doing a homework. I'll sit down with some of my friends and some of them will get things done super fast. And I'll spend days and days and days trying to learn the same topic in multiple ways, right?
Yes,
I was trying to learn like, okay, am I a audio person? Do I have to listen to recordings?
yes,
Am I a visual person? Should I start drawing things?
right,
Do I
right.
have to write things down? Like trying to figure it out my way of studying and figure it out also how would all of this click?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was challenging.
With like really
School was
dense topics
hard.
too, it's hard. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But
Oh
I,
yeah,
I
and then you
totally
go
get that.
from one class, like circuits. I mean, to me, always circuits comes back in my
Yes,
mind. But
yeah,
going from circuits one, whereas like you passed and you're like, okay, I get it, but not like I can go out and build a bunch of stuff with circuits.
right.
And then you jump to circuits two, and you're like, what in the world now do I do with this?
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Mhm.
jumping in the deep
Yeah,
end. Yeah, totally.
100%. But no, that's awesome. It kind of makes me feel like home a little bit, and like, okay, it's not just me that went through
Yeah, of
those
course.
emotions and those feelings. There's a lot of us that did.
Yeah. I
Um,
think
but then
especially,
going
oh,
for it.
I was gonna say, I think especially the women at Poly, I think if they don't all experience the same thing throughout college, majority of them do, yeah. And
Oh
you know,
yeah.
I've wondered like because part of student government and things they would ask why or what reasons we could think of that they would have uh, female students start or enroll at Poly, but then sometimes transfer out after a semester, their first year. And so that transition's already incredibly difficult at an engineering school, like what we're talking about.
Mhm.
But then when the guys outnumber the girls 9-1, it's
Yeah.
just exemplifying all those issues 10 times.
100%. With the conversations that you guys were having, was there anything that came out of it with this could possibly be the reasons why there's a lot of like women leaving the school right away in literally what you said in a semester to a year?
Yeah, there were a couple of conversations, and there were conversations with different people. So
Yeah.
within like student government and with student government presidents, with a couple other people, there were conversations about ways that they could um, create spaces where women felt safer on campus and in classes. So talking through some of the common issues. Sometimes it could be like feeling uncomfortable around certain behavior and not really knowing
Mhm.
where to go with that information. It was talking with Title IX and trying to streamline like their processes with filing complaints, and also giving resources to people who maybe are going through Title IX process with
Mhm.
sexual harassment complaints, and giving that student resources in the formal process because I don't think that people understand, especially as I would say a woman at Poly, it's
Mhm.
it was at the time incredibly difficult if something happened that you were uncomfortable with to then go and report it to the right
Yep.
person.
Mhm.
And then you would have to follow that through kind of presenting it in front of multiple people. So it's not like you just kind of make a complaint and say, hey, this person's making me uncomfortable. You're
Yep.
then voicing that to multiple people at a small school. Many women do not come forward. And so it was
Of
having a lot
course.
of those conversations with the university, and a lot of them were incredibly receptive to it. I know
That's awesome.
yeah, I know. We worked with the Title IX department and Dr. Miller, and were able
Mhm.
to streamline a few things, which was really rewarding for me to be a part of.
Oh yeah, no, you made such a good point, especially with a small school. I think it was really hard for some of us to speak our minds if anything was happening. I remember that at first, a lot of us went through some type of awkward feelings or situations that we felt uncomfortable at some point.
Yeah.
And to me, I remember at first it was the scary feeling of that person is gonna find out and the whole university is gonna know because
Yes.
everyone talks to each other.
Yes.
But I remember that at the end, probably my third year as a junior, when we had our counselors at the university, I think that was a huge change because we could go
Yeah.
to them, make the complaints, talk about it.
Yes.
Um, and if we wanted to, let them know the person's name and everything, they were helping us through that process of, okay, hey, if you don't want to be involved with this, I can create the report for you. We can go through it,
Yes.
make sure that they won't know that you're the actually person making, the report and everything and being involved with. I think that was a huge change. I think that changed literally the whole situation for us. of, okay, we have some people to go to talk it through. And it wasn't just, oh, to go to create a report, but also going through the emotions that you're feeling at the moment
Yes.
with the whole situation. So,
Yeah.
I remember that was awesome. That was a really good process that, the school, you guys, I would say that everyone in SGA and everyone involved into those conversations and making those changes, I think was a really, really great change for us.
Yeah, and that was important for me because I know that, yeah, I mean, with the girls that talk to each other at Poly, unfortunately, it was not uncommon for us to go through those uncomfortable kind of experiences that if you had that outlet, like what you said, I talked to Casey Fox
Mhm.
when I was
Yep.
there, yeah, for my stuff. And so if you don't have that contact person, or a safe place to express those feelings or concerns, then there's really no safety there. And yeah, the
Mhm.
female students are going to go elsewhere to seek safety. So it
Exactly.
was having, yeah, a lot of those conversations and breaking things down into like looking at how we make all of these processes so accessible to especially the female students, but to all students.
No, that's amazing. I'm glad we had that. And it's also understandable. It was a very new school that had just opened when we joined.
Totally,
So
yeah.
they're learning with us and from us on everything that they need to do to make it better, make it safer. So I'm glad that we were able to see so many positive changes with the conversations. And like you said, everyone being very receptive to being
Yeah.
open-minded and just learning from us and understanding and coming up with solutions for all the issues that we found.
Yeah.
So that is amazing. I'm glad all of that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge.
And then going from all Florida Poly topics and everything, college, the rough years. From from that, how did you land your first career afterwards, your first position? What was that?
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom for anyone that is graduating from college, going into their first job,
Oh
which I
my
know it's a
God.
lot out there right now.
Yeah. So especially right now, right? Because like I would say that there's definitely suggestions that you can give people, but the job market changes with the economy, right? So like right now, it's just hard to get hired anywhere. Um,
Yeah.
but when I graduated, it was like shortly after COVID. So I graduated in 2021. And so it was at that point that things had kind of started opening back up. Florida especially had. And so I was just applying for any like entry level engineering jobs
Mhm.
within the biotech sector.
Yep.
And then I was really focusing on smaller to like startup level companies that had ideally like less than 50 employees. So, like we talked about, I really enjoyed going to a smaller college. You get more say in what you're doing, and really wanted that to translate to my job. So,
That's amazing.
yeah, and so I was lucky enough. I mean, it took like 4 or 5 months, before I ended up finding my job. But I just found my job through LinkedIn. I wish I had a better story than that. Like, it was just a job posting, and I, had all these alerts set up, and I was alerted for the position opening, and it was a medical device startup out of Carnegie Mellon. And my partner and I had graduated from Florida Poly, and again, we're kind of in a position where we were like, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, let's just let life take us where it'll take us. And
Mhm.
funny enough, I ended up applying for that job in Pittsburgh because it was involving EEG devices for brain scans, which like I thought just sounded really interesting. It was a small company, and my boyfriend at the time, now fiance, ended up getting a job at the nuclear power plant in Pittsburgh,
Oh,
Pennsylvania.
wow.
So we just both ended up getting positions right there in Pittsburgh, and that put us up in Pennsylvania for a year. Um, and
That's awesome.
so,
I'm glad you guys both got positions there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because we moved up to Pittsburgh and we were shocked at like how many people from Florida Poly were in Pittsburgh. So we were in the city of Pittsburgh and we had one, two, three, four, five people from Lakeland that we
Oh,
knew.
wow.
Yeah. So it was just one of
That's a
those
lot.
things that was so surprising of like how many other people ended up in Pittsburgh. But it was like a newer tech hub at the time. Like the city really and still is really starting to open a lot of technology companies. They're all right there, really close to Boston and a lot of other like
Mhm.
biotech hubs. And then this was a company that started out of Carnegie Mellon. So, as a lot of the other companies did in that
Yeah.
area. So I was really lucky that I had just kind of stumbled along the job opening. And the process was really informal for getting hired. So the guy that owns the company is still a professor part-time at Carnegie Mellon. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and he teaches a lot of the graduate electrical and biomedical engineering classes. So he's done a lot of really cool work prior. He taught at a couple other universities and really was leading this project at the time as a professor, and then realized with him and the student that this product could turn into an actual marketable device. And so it was really the professor taking the product on behalf of the student and taking it to the people in charge at Carnegie Mellon and saying, hey, this is a multi-million dollar idea. What do we need to do to, apply for funding and federal grants and these things so that we can continue to do research and build a company around this? And so I came on about a year after the company started. And
Oh, wow. Super new too.
yeah, super new. Like I was the fifth employee hired. So like
No way.
it like our team was just me and two other people. So like again, that has a lot of pros and cons, but I really loved that position because I was exposed to like I would say everything from project management to like looking at overall CAD designs or like process designs. I was doing a lot of higher level things that I otherwise wouldn't have done if I had
Mhm.
gone into a bigger company like Johnson and Johnson or company like that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That is very, very interesting how you went from very small university to a very small company at first.
Yeah.
What were some of the pros and cons of working with such a small team and very, very new company?
So I would say I've worked now for both, worked for
Yeah.
larger companies and small businesses, and I really do enjoy working for smaller companies. The
Okay.
pros are that you get a lot more hands-on with a much wider variety of tasks. So I used to have one boss that would kind of joke around all the time because on my contract, there were all these bullets that listed, my job duties. And then the bottom bullet was just all other duties assigned because it's just, you're doing so much that, you're
Yeah.
not just doing CAD. But like, I started out in the company doing design modifications. So I came in while they were doing pediatric clinical trials, and it was like the coolest experience ever to be able to go into the hospital to UPMC and watch and observe the clinical trials with patients as young as 7 and 8 years old and getting to
Oh,
see the impact that our devices had.
Yeah.
Some of the patients, our devices were EEG accessory products. So what it did is secured electrodes to your scalp to get better
Okay.
scalp contact and better quality EEG recordings. So patients would have, a few different reasons for why this would happen. Sometimes patients had different cognitive, reasons that they weren't able to sit still for long periods of
Yeah.
time. And so just a simple product like ours made the application time, cut in half. And
Wow,
it
that's
it
amazing.
resulted in quality recordings that were able to help um, uh, dictate epilepsy treatment and a lot of other really, really, really cool things. Personally, my cousin has a brother that has epilepsy that has not been treated by medications or anything. He is 26 now. And so he just had a deep brain stimulator implanted inside of his brain. And
Okay.
so he's had to go through similar processes where he's getting EEGs. For whatever reason, it could be the hair type even of the patient.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So those with coarse, curly, like afro textured hair have difficulty parting their hair. Because like ours,
Yeah.
you can just part and it'll stay, whereas you
Mhm.
don't have that same functionality with really, really curly hair. So I could go in for an EEG just like this, whereas my cousin would have to shave his head to get an EEG.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the premise with our company was creating hardware and software solutions to create the best well-rounded care that's respectful for every single patient and treats everybody the same that walks in. And so I was really jumping in at an exciting time in the pediatric trials.
Mhm.
And I, through that, started doing like little design modifications and like reprototyping them. And then I began to kind of lead some of the different engineering designs for the expansion of their hardware product. So again, the company was so small that we each had our each individual kind of little niches that we all fit into. But
Mhm.
it was so cool to see, to know like I would get my product directly from Jasmine, or I'd get my design directly from Jasmine. This is
Mhm.
kind of where I would start and end my job. And then I know when my devices get to this certain point where they're verified, they definitely work and they're definitely deemed safe for the patient.
Yeah.
Then the designs would kind of move on into, I would say, like our more creative person on the team, much more creative than I am. But she would kind of take my solutions and create even more solutions to other problems that we would have. So it was really broadening my horizons with
Mhm.
design and the technical skills, but also it was really collaborative with kind of piecing from one person to the other or from one step in the production process to another, really collaborative when designing and finishing the device.
I love that. And I love how this kind of goes back in a circle a little bit with the beginning
Yeah.
of how
Yes.
you were in school to be a nurse and working with people and caring for people.
Yeah.
And the first job you had, it honestly is the same path
Yeah.
in a sense
Yeah.
of you are still working with people, still caring for people, but just in a very different way and
Yes.
doing a job that you're making such a huge impact on someone's life without having to carry so much of like
The
the weight
weight.
coming back on.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And that was really one of those moments where I was like standing back and I was like, okay, this is like my dream job because I
Yeah.
I I genuinely like had the best of both worlds. From, like you said, directly seeing the impact of giving a patient high quality care but without the, stress and the emotional impact of being face to face.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what got you back to where you are located now,
Yeah.
into having an experience with such a small company to a larger company?
Yeah.
How was that transition?
So it was, so when I started at my company at Precision Neuroscopics, it was almost like we talked about at Poly. It was like jumping in the deep end and feeling like you're drowning for a couple seconds. Like, it was a small company. And so when you start, you're just kind of jumping in very quickly, into your role. And I was also working with a lot of, I was lucky to be working with a lot of PhDs who were and are at the top of their field. Insanely intelligent people. And just, sitting in Zoom conversations with them, like learning about the company, learning about the product, and about the different contracts that they have going on. I would learn so much, not only about the products and about neuroscience, but about engineering design in general, which was really, really cool. One of my managers at that position really focused on creating solutions that are that look nice and are functional, but also incredibly simple. So balancing that, I think, is kind of delicate, and it's interesting in engineering, because I feel like the tendency sometimes is to over engineer something. It can get complicated very quickly. And so really, especially in medicine and in our field, where these devices were going to be applied to patients and removed quickly, it was really about auditing and going through the design process a little differently than normally, just to make sure that we have an incredibly safe, simple, but functional design. And they were really the group that taught me that does exist, and can still be novel and marketable, profitable.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love, because it's so rare to hear someone say, okay, engineers are working to simplify something instead
Yes.
of
Yeah.
adding others to it.
Yeah. And like, to think like you're, in medicine too, like these devices are going to go on patients. So like if I'm in a hospital or something, like, am I going to be weary of having this big, mechanical kind of difficult contraption coming out at me? Or if the device is more simple looking and looks like something I'm already familiar with in my day-to-day life, it's a lot less intimidating to use, to have on, and, less noticeable for me, the patient.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Especially, yeah, I'm trying to, like, in my mind, put myself in that situation as a patient. And I will want something smaller, simpler, that, is not as heavy or whatever the case may be, to be on my body,
Yeah.
than really the opposite.
Yeah.
And I love that they had that mindset with it of, okay, let's focus a little bit of sometimes what the patient needs, instead of
Yes.
just adding all of this engineering and
Yes.
technology to it.
And
Sometimes that's the best way to go about it.
yeah, and it was interesting too, because they were very much, it was so cool because they innovated in a way that showed, we looked at, when we're creating this product, we have the solution for the select group. So for patients with really curly hair, or for patients, that have epilepsy, or whatever those cases may be. But just because we're designing for those cases does not mean that our solution does not work for other patients. And so, like, our product was considered a DEI medical device for a long time, to increase diversity and inclusion within neuroscience. And sometimes, DEI, or that terminology, can be a little bit political, But for us, it was showing that these designs and solutions, although they identified a certain audience that it's, really kind of gearing the solution towards, it really is leveling the playing field for every patient that would come in, and has that wide variety of applications, from even like traumatic brain injuries within the military,
Yeah.
or, other patients, even outside of epilepsy and things like that. So it was really interesting to me, even through this process, after I left Precision Neuroscopics. I've still been learning so much about how to create those patient-centered and innovative solutions, that's also like attainable and easy to use and easy to grasp, for the general public, which is really, it's really kind of led the rest of my engineering knowledge, which has been cool.
That's amazing. That's a I feel like it's a lot of knowledge that you learn from every experience you had,
Yeah.
every company you worked for, even your background, with nursing school. It's a lot of different topics that you've learned and a lot of different knowledge that you build, which is amazing. And with all of that knowledge, I know now you're doing something completely different with your career. If you want to share that a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Oh my God. Yeah. Completely different. So I feel like it's funny because I went from medicine to engineering and now teaching.
Yeah.
But so I touched on earlier, my company at Precision Neuroscopics, we created DEI medical devices. Unfortunately, we were funded through the NSF and NIH. And so this year, in January, we kind of had, a like reorganization of the NSF and NIH, how they give grant money. And so unfortunately, our devices and our grants, our contracts were some of those that were released from the NSF and NIH. So it was overnight, basically, that we all of a sudden were not being funded by the government anymore. And so my boss was incredibly awesome to, work through the company as long as we were able to. But it was a startup, a small business as well. So we couldn't go multiple months without funding. So I ended up hearing about a position at a local high school in the same town that I, grew up every summer at going to. All of my cousins went to. And they're partnering with Saddle Creek, funny enough, in Lakeland, and they're starting a
Nice.
new engineering program for the high school students to give them CAD certifications when they graduate and help them make a portfolio and have those tangible skills. Just if they decide to go to college to carry those on, or if they decide to go directly into the workforce, or either path, going into the military, whatever it may be, that they actually have more confidence and hands-on skills to be able to go into STEM. So it's a new program, and I'm really, really, really excited about, like you said, I feel like there's a joke. You either know a lot about a little or a little about a lot. And
Yeah.
I feel like I know a little about a lot. So it would be a really cool opportunity to be able to now hand that experience down to, other kids who are at that point where they're kind of deciding what they want to do with their lives for the first time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a full circle moment right there.
Huge. Yeah.
Of in a way, even with the teaching position, I think it's such an important thing
Yeah.
nowadays, such an important position to have, because I feel like we don't have enough teachers at the moment. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on with that, right? But
Yeah.
I love that even with that position, you're still gonna be able to influence others, and you're still gonna be able to, bring a whole different perspective into education, bring your experience, everything that you've learned into the new generation. And hopefully, even with that, kind of like aligns with the message of this podcast a little bit. Hopefully, bring some spark with some of the girls in high school, and also the boys, of course, with everyone in high school, just
Yeah.
into bringing more people into STEM and how that can be such a cool opportunity in the future. And just making sure all the emotions that we've had as a moment of, was this for me? This is so challenging, and being able to assist, having that experience as well. So it's kind of funny how this whole conversation went on like in a
Yeah.
whole full circle of how you started to how you ended right now,
Yeah.
where you are in life right now, and everything that you've learned so far, and how you're going to be able to honestly just implement everything, a little bit of everything into this new position. So that is cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I like, when I was talking to the principal about this program, like I was telling him my main goal, of being a teacher is just to be in a position, but also, give my platform to other people who, want to come in and, give guest lectures or whatever, but to have a position where students can look at people that look like them in their fields that they're interested in going to. So having a female engineering teacher in high school where, the classes are again outnumbered,
Yeah.
is incredibly important. Seeing engineers who are people of color is incredibly important. Looking and also further giving those resources and opportunities like we spoke about. If it's not, colleges and scholarships, it could be clubs like NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Women Engineering, giving students a lot of those resources, again, to bolster that confidence, where they can, enter into life when they turn 18. And instead of being like scared to death, they have something to fall back on, saying like, I feel like I actually learned something. I have tools that I'm actually going to use going forward in my career. So
That's
then I'll
amazing.
know that I've done a good job. Yeah.
I love that. I love what you're aiming for with this position, with this next, chapter of your life. I honestly think you're gonna do amazing being a teacher, especially with everything that you're bringing in, and you show so much excitement for this, which is awesome. We need people that are very excited, to teach, to show people how, just give them literally what you said, like resources that we didn't have,
Yeah.
right? I don't think I had any resources at all when I was in high school
Yes.
to what the next steps are. I jumped into university without knowing anything and just kind of had to learn on my own. And that was really hard. So just knowing that they're going to have you to look up to, knowing that you can share those resources, you can share the knowledge, you can share the experiences that you had and get them, way better
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
for when they go to college. That's awesome. That is super, super exciting to hear.
Yeah, yeah. My goal is to I have a few students that I'm currently like mentoring over the summer, but I keep telling them, I'm like, my goal with you is to make you much better than me. Like much more well-rounded. Like because for me it was always about the why of what I'm doing. And so being in this position where I'm still able to have that why behind
Mhm.
engineering is incredibly important, and that really is what I'm chasing. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
No, I'm excited. Excited for you. Excited for your
Thank you
future.
so
And
much.
if you're going to a whole different path at some
Yeah.
point again, or another part of like the whole circle that you're creating, that is awesome.
Yeah.
To end our chat, do you have any words of wisdom? Is there anything that you would like to share, with everyone that's going to be listening to your podcast?
Yeah. So words of wisdom, I would say, I think um, there's a point where everyone, kind of gets at either when they turn 18, it could be earlier or later. But this point where you're kind of out on your own and it's incredibly terrifying. I really worked hard on trying to reframe that as looking at it as freedom. So it's like now I have the freedom to write what chapter I want. What am I going to chase? Like, am I going to chase this dream of living in a city for the first time? Am I going to chase a dream of, starting a family? it really like looking at what feeds you, so that you
Mhm.
can, get up and go to work, and maybe you don't enjoy it, maybe, or you don't love it. It's not your favorite job, but it's fulfilling, enough to get you through the day and give back to your family. That's more than enough. And yeah, I would say like, fail fast. And as a woman, that's really hard to do because it feels like you're on a
Yep.
stage sometimes, especially when you're failing. And so that gets incredibly difficult when you're, learning very quickly what doesn't work. But then you have the audience or sometimes that kind of noise in your ear, that is not helpful and contributing to that like imposter syndrome. But again, that's really where you are looking inward at like what fuels you. And that's the thing that's going to maintain you through that path, no matter what is going on around you. So really my fulfillment, was looking at, kind of breaking down my goals of what I wanted, things that I knew that I may regret later on. One of the things was like I knew I wanted to live in a city when I graduated from college, like just to say I
Mhm.
did. And
Yeah.
that would kind of be something that I would regret or wonder later on down in life. And so, yeah, it really chasing those things. And even if it doesn't pan out, you still can say at the end of the day, I did it, I chased what I wanted to do, and that itself has never been a disappointment, or a failure for me. That's just propelled me faster to where I wanted to go.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. That was beautiful to hear and super, super inspiring too. I think I can relate 1000% honest with everything that you said. Um, and I hope a lot more people can relate to and look up to you, to your story, to everything that you share here, and be able to make awesome changes in their lives and feel a little bit more comfortable, more confident in themselves to making those big changes. Especially at such a young age. I feel like 18 is too early for us to be
Yeah.
trying to make a decision of, okay, what are we gonna do for the rest of our lives?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
but I'm excited. I'm excited to have someone like you here with us today, just sharing your whole story, sharing all your experiences, so many different, amazing, incredible experiences, which has been super, super cool to listen to. So thank you for sharing everything. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And again, I think that this podcast and this platform is so cool. You're doing something similar, which I really respect and admire. And this was so awesome, yeah, to talk about a lot of things that we went through that are really similar. So it's always nice to, have others that can definitely empathize to a lot of those experiences and feelings. So thank you so
Oh
much.
yeah, I feel like, of course, thank you. I feel like we can relate a lot to each
Yeah.
other. I think a lot of us, especially all the other guests that I'm gonna have here, we're all gonna be able to relate to the little things, especially if we went to Florida Polytechnic
Yes.
University together. We all have similar backgrounds in that sense, but also such different stories and backgrounds. So that is really awesome to hear. No, but thank you. I appreciate it as well. Very excited to keep going with this podcast. Excited for the next guest that will be coming along as well. I'm gonna have all of the links and everything for every social media, for every new podcast coming in, all in the description and everything below. So if you would like to follow us, subscribe, or anything at all, feel free to do so. And if you have any questions, just reach out. Um, and yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, this was so fun. Thank you.